The ACC schedule is already out with several big changes. No early ACC game this year. Yay! But just one matchup with NC State. Boo.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, September 11th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for joining us at the place to get your Carolina every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Want to appreciate you for making us your first listener watch to get your Wednesday going the right way. Special shout out to all you everydayers here with us and all the great members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord and insider groups as well. Those links are in the show notes. We'd love to have you join us. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets right now. Joining me on the show today is our good buddy, Coach Bill Robinson, the head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes, just getting out of a coaching ethics. Is that the name of the class?
Coaching for character. Yeah, coaching for character.
Yes. And boy, I tell you what, dealing with some topics that make me glad that I am not a coach, but I've got all my own stuff there. Coach Rob, if you're not familiar with him, is a 2-decade veteran of working Carolina summer basketball camp called Carolina Basketball School. In fact, he's written this book that I'm holding up by the same title, Carolina Basketball School History, Stories, and Drills. It's a great read. You need to pick up your copy now or get one for a loved one in your life or your favorite Duke or NC State fan, because you know that they would cherish it. Here's where Coach Rob and I are headed today. On Tuesday, the ACC released the conference schedule for the year several weeks earlier than we've gotten it. It was September 9th when it came out last year, September 24th, the year before that, September 26th. So to the ACC, we say thank you. Thank you for getting us this so we can start looking at it and planning it. So where we'll head is the biggest pieces of information, things we already knew, things we still don't know, the big Monday schedule, home and away makeup, including barely leaving the Tar Heel state in the back half of this schedule. So, Coach, the biggest single takeaway for me, as predicted, with the schedule dropping to 18 games, there is no ACC game now mixed in early December, as had been the case since the 2019-20 season, the birth of the ACC network. In your opinion, is that a good change, a bad change, or just whatever, it's a change and it doesn't matter?
No, I think from a coaching perspective, it's a great change. Let's do preseason, non-conference, and then just focus on conference. There's no mixing of it. And I think from the player's perspective, too, you like that. When the game is, they all mean a lot, obviously, but they mean a whole lot more when it's in league. And we've had conference games as early as the second week of November, where you're not ready then. You're just not ready to play the very best basketball. And we've had some losses early in the season that we just didn't feel like we really, it would have been different if we had a month more to prepare for that game. So as a coach, I think it's great. I think Hubert and staff will love the fact that they can really find out more about their team before they get into those conference games that mean much, much more.
That's a great point. I'm right with you. Now, we do have several schools, like I knew Duke is doing this for the second year in a row, where they're playing a non-con game on one of their off weekends in the ACC schedule, and that's fine, whatever, but I'm with you, especially, Coach, in this portal era where every year you're trying to get your team figured out, and you're not going to have it figured out typically by the first weekend of December, which is when that game was typically played. So it is a relief, in my opinion, that now you can have as much time as you need in non-con to get your team prepared before, as you said, the all-important conference play.
Yeah. Well, we're doing the same thing this year with a non-conference game late, but it's to cover a Saturday. I'd rather not miss a Saturday because part of it is routine. We'll talk about that, a rhythm of games. And when you have an open Saturday late in the year, we have an all women's school in our league. So when the matrix is put together, our women will play, them that weekend. We get that weekend off. I don't want that weekend off. So that's why we filled in a non-conference game later in the year.
Nice. That makes sense. For those of you watching on YouTube, on screen, I've pulled up the schedule, the version of it that I have in our Locked On Tar Heels Insiders Google Drive folder, which is another plug for the Google Drive for joining the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders. You get free access to all of my good grief, charts and stats and data and things like that. This is one of them. And folks, you can see that Georgetown game that Carolina hosts on December 7th is that weekend when this ACC game typically would have fallen. We'll scroll down to the ACC part of the schedule here in just a second. Now, Coach, there were some things we already knew because we knew who all the opponents were going to be. We knew some of the breakdown of that. And so I just want to give a couple reminders if we could, and just get some of your takeaways on that. I've got 4 quick reminders. Reminder number 1. It is back to an 18-game schedule. That was announced back on May 7th. And it had been 20 games since the 2019-20 season, save for 2021 because of COVID. Reminder number 2, we already knew the opponents and all the home-away splits. So we knew who would be playing and where, but we just didn't know the order and all of that stuff. Reminder number 3, with the reduction to 18 games and the addition of SMU, Cal, and Stanford last year, you now only have 2 teams that you play twice. One permanent partner, which for Carolina is Duke, and one annual fluctuating partner, which this year is going to be Syracuse. That means Carolina only plays NC State one time. The 4th reminder is also because of those changes, the reduction of games and the addition of teams. There will be one team that you simply do not play in the regular season this year for North Carolina. That team is Boston College. Coach, from any of those reminders, I think maybe chiefly the 2 played teams or the not playing Boston College teams, any, I know we've looked at it before, but any reactions or responses to that?
Yeah, I think not playing State twice is it's a crime. And that's just been such a rivalry, maybe even more so than Duke over the years. And I understand that it's about money and it's about a lot of different things, but they have to find a way to make that, and I don't think they will, but it's just disappointing that State does not come to Chapel Hill this year.
It absolutely is. And so obviously there will be a year at some point when they play State twice, but that's not going to happen, not even every year, but not even often, because there are 17 other teams in the conference and they're going to cycle through all of that. Coach, on the Boston College, not playing them, I see a positive and a negative, and I'm curious if you agree here. The negative, in my opinion, is that you don't get to play Boston College, which should be a win, but we remember how that game went in the Dean Dome last year, needing Drake Powell's heroics to pull out the victory. The positive of it is you don't have Boston College, likely a bottom feeder of the ACC, weighing down your net rankings. Do you see that same positive and negative, and are there you would see from that?
Yeah, that's the world we're in right now, is that it really, you are punished for not playing the very best schedule that you can possibly play. So a win against them might not be worth as much as a loss against a top 10 team. So it doesn't sound like it makes any sense, but it does. The other thing for me is that's a long travel. If it's at Boston College, you got another long trip. If it's late in the year, I mean, we'll talk about later about the home and aways, but it is a long trip up there, and winter, and it's cold, and you have snow possibilities, and the possibilities of having a game get postponed or pushed back. To get a northern team like that out of the schedule, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, Coach, I've switched what we have pulled up on screen here from the schedule because of the nerd and the dork that I am. When I was looking at all the home and aways, I was like, I would really like to know the actual distance from the Dean Dome to each school in the conference. And so for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see this chart that I made, which is another chart that I just shared on Wednesday, with our Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, another plug for that. But as you can see here, Conti Forum, where Boston College plays, is the 5th furthest school away from the Tar Heels. And so it is nice from a travel standpoint, as you said there, Coach, that the Tar Heels don't have to go there. That's a great point. Now, for all the things that we knew or now know, there are some things we still don't have, Coach. We don't have times for 16 of the 18 games. We don't have the TV schedule of the 18 games, although I can assure you that 2 of the games we don't know about will be on ESPN against the Duke Blue Devils. And also, Coach, we don't have the day of playing for 6 of the midweek games. It will either be Tuesday or Wednesday. For you, with your coaching hat on, and then maybe take it off after that and put the fan hat on, what is lost in not knowing those things, and how hard is that for a team and a coaching staff?
I don't think it's that big now, and I really don't think they're even focused on it. Me personally, I'd like them to play on Tuesdays because we play on Wednesdays, and it's a little easier for me to see them on Tuesday. The reality is I don't have time to watch them. I usually watch them the next morning on Synergy and can fast forward through everything. And I can rewind and go through back and watch plays too, which I like to do. But I don't think they're worried about that now. Those are not things that they're worried about. They're not worried about the TV exposure right now. All that will play out. If they play well, they're going to be on TV and be on TV a bunch. So I really don't think that's a big deal now. It's a bigger deal for the fans that are trying to figure out their travel schedules throughout the year. But I think once you kind of get in the rhythm, Tuesday, Wednesday, if you play on Tuesday, you may end up taking a day off or having a lighter day before you play that Saturday game. So I do like to get into a rhythm where you do have a pretty normal schedule that puts you into a normal routine.
Okay, so we'll have 6 of those out, and that's all, folks, because of TV, right? Like, it's TV that dictates. They're going to want to wait to see who's playing well and all that. And I guess, frankly, that's a function not just of TV, but of the portal era. And nobody knows how good or bad these teams are. And so if TV can hold off on making those decisions of who they're going to air until they know how good those teams are going to be, that's ultimately a win for ratings. And keep in mind, in the new world of the ACC, the eyeballs that you get on your TV, on your games, matter and factor into how much payout you get. So we want Carolina to get as many of those games as possible. Coach, one of the more difficult parts of the ACC schedule is always the Saturday-Monday turnaround, thanks to Big Monday on ESPN. How many times is Carolina going to have to do that this year? And what's the rhythm of the schedule week to week? We're going to look at those things next. All coming up just a second. Right after I tell you about DoorDash, man, that just made me really hungry even thinking about it. It's almost the weekend, and it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Tar Heels, I really thought it was the defense that delivered in a big way at Charlotte. The fewest points allowed to an FBS opponent since 2001. That's like 2.5 decades. When the pressure was on, the defense came through. No hesitation, no delay. And just like the defense delivered for the Tar Heels, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250. That's including $100 in DoorDash credits. So order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. The promo period runs all the way through November 18th. Isaac Schade, Coach Bill Robinson here, talking the ACC schedule release that came out on Tuesday. Coach, where we want to head next? One of the first things I always look at is how many of the Saturday to Big Monday turnarounds the Tar Heels have. That's part of the deal when you play in the ACC or Big 12, and you are a big-time entity, which Carolina is. And so the way it goes is there's always 2 games. There's an ACC game earlier and a Big 12 game later, and that schedule came out as well, so we know all the Big 12 and ACC games for that. Coach, Carolina is playing in 2 of those turnarounds. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see that happening there from games 21 to 22, as well as from game 27 to 28. So here's that schedule, Coach, and then I'd love your reaction to it. The first of which is Saturday, January 31st at Georgia Tech, then coming home and playing Syracuse on Monday, February 2nd. Groundhog Day, right? Is that Groundhog Day?
I think it is.
I'm not good on weird stuff like that. Anyway, the second Saturday, Monday turnaround is Saturday, February 21st, so a couple weeks later, up at Syracuse, and then returning home on Monday, the 23rd, to play Louisville, the only time this year against the Cards. Coach, what's the difficulty of these Saturday, Monday turnarounds?
Yeah, I think it's imperative that you play well on that Saturday and get some momentum going into the weekend, especially when they're on the road. I do love the fact that the second of those games are at home. It does mean that the preparation is a little bit different. The travel obviously is a lot different, and you're not trying to get there a day before and having a practice or shoot around Sunday night, trying to get ready for a Monday game, and then getting home real late the next day. So I do think it's the best set up for them to be able to play secondly. But man, you've got to play well on Saturday and get some momentum, because you're just not going to have a whole lot of time to prepare for that next game.
Yeah, man, that's so true. I'm right with you. I love if I had my druthers, I would always, if I've got to do this, and usually what happens, it's always one on the road, one at home. I would much rather do this order. And I feel like Carolina usually has 2 big Monday turnarounds, and I feel like it's flip-flopped. Usually it's like one on the road, one at home, and then one at home and one on the road. So I love getting it this way. Obviously, the Georgia Tech trip is going to be much easier driving down to Atlanta rather than flying up to Syracuse. But that one up at Syracuse, Coach, that could be a gross snowy February night up in Syracuse with nothing much going on. And then returning home to play Louisville, who figures to be one of the better teams in the conference. And so I feel like that second of these two is going to be much more difficult than the first will be.
Yeah, totally agree. That's a tougher weekend for sure. Interesting that Syracuse is involved in both of them, but
Yep.
Is it me or just we haven't really played real well at Georgia Tech either? So that's a tougher place to play than people think. And shooting in the dome up there in the Carrier Dome is just unless you are familiar with it, it's an adjustment. So those are really two tough weekends. That it's going to say a lot about the team. At that point of the year.
Yeah, and that second one, Coach, is also pretty late in the game there. Yeah, there's only 3 more regular season games after that Louisville game on that Monday. So going to be critical time. That Louisville game could go a long way in determining a lot with conference seeding or ACC tournament seeding, things of that nature. Coach, let's turn our attention to the rhythm of this schedule. In totality, it is 10 weeks long, 18 games. So that means you get 2 times off, whether it's a midweek or a Saturday. For North Carolina, Coach, it is 2 midweeks that they have off. They play all 10 of those Saturdays, meaning then that they will have 8 of the midweeks. But what's interesting, Coach, is the midweeks off are week 2. So Carolina plays 2 ACC games, has a midweek off, plays Saturday, and then week 5, they've got the midweek off. So, Coach, that means weeks 6 through 10, they go boom, 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 all the way straight through it. A Monday game, a Saturday game, Tuesday or Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday or Wednesday, Saturday, Monday, Saturday, and then Tuesday or Wednesday and Saturday. Man, I got to tell you, I would imagine you as a coach would much rather have those open slots, kind of like maybe one in the middle and one toward the end, but that's going to make things tougher for Carolina.
Yeah, I actually like the one early because it does give you a little extra time to fix some stuff, put some new stuff in. I know, and talking to Brad, they like to put some stuff in, different than they've run all years, just to give people different looks so they can't prepare for every single thing that you do. You may have out of bounds plays you run every single game and you don't change them, but offensively, defensively, you want to put some wrinkles in. And I think having one early allows you to do that, to put some new stuff in and try to, maybe tinker with the offense defense a little bit. The one halfway through, I don't necessarily like. I would like that to be a little bit later because you are in a situation where you might want to get a break. You have some wear down. You got some guys with ankles or something, just little injuries that you maybe just want that extra day off. But if you're playing well late, you want to play every single day. It's no different than being a batter, in baseball. You're in a streak and you're hitting the ball well. You can't wait to get back up to the plate. So it is. If you're playing well, I don't think it's a problem at all late. If you're struggling and you don't have time to fix stuff, that's a bigger problem.
What's interesting is that second one, Coach, that one in the middle leads into the first Monday turnaround. I wonder if it would be nicer if it led into the second.
Yeah,
maybe that's the spot where it would be kind of advent or coming out of that Saturday, Monday turnaround, which I guess is nice because then you're off till Saturday. So yeah, I think if I had my druthers, I would like it to be going in week 8, having that midweek off ahead of Saturday, Monday. Coach, as you look at this, is there any specific slot that looks to you like, oh boy, that is a tough stretch, whether it's because of who you're playing or the travel schedule, maybe like a 2, 3, 4 game stretch that just jumps out to you as, man, that's going to be pretty difficult.
Yeah, the first Duke game, they go Duke and then at Miami, which is always a tough trip. I think it would be tough for my guys just because you all of a sudden you get someplace warm in the middle of the winter. It's hard to focus on playing basketball sometimes. We took a December trip to San Diego one time, got hammered both games. The guys were just happy to be in the sunshine. And I didn't think about that ahead of time. And then
to be clear, Coach is not saying his guys were drinking during the game.
No,
not that kind of hammered.
No,
like they got obliterated on the court.
We got beat pretty bad. But you got Duke, and then you go to Miami, Pitt, and then State and Syracuse back to back, and Louisville. Yeah. That's a brutal stretch.
Yeah.
And it just seems like but hey, it's ACC basketball, baby. You got to play.
That's right.
You got to be ready to go, and it doesn't really matter. Every night's going to be a test. And when you're the Tar Heels, you got a target on your back, and you've got to be ready and set. Doesn't matter who plays, when, and where. You just got to be ready to win.
I'm with you, Coach. That was the exact stretch that I identified as like, ooh, that's tough. And that's kind of what they typically do for the teams like Carolina and Duke and Louisville that figure to be the better teams in the conferences. They kind of backload some stuff because that's when more eyeballs are coming because football's over and bubble watch and tournament talk and all of that stuff. So it makes sense. It'll be a little tougher on the back stretch there. Coach, one other thing I want to note, I mentioned we've got those 6 either ors on a Tuesday, Wednesday. The very first one of those, the first ACC game is that, and it will be against Florida State either on a Tuesday or Wednesday. If it's the Wednesday, Coach, that's New Year's Eve. What challenges does that present for a basketball team?
We try to keep our guys as close to the house, and when I mean the house, I mean campus or our personal house on those type of days, and whether the day before. I think that might make it easier knowing that they're together, knowing that it's just different when you're a basketball team at that level. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, all those things just they often take a back seat. So they may get a day or two at Christmas to go home, but New Year's doesn't mean as much to the team. It's just another day, and if they can just kind of have that mentality, maybe you have a special post game meal after that and do something fun. But it's just different. It's no different than, Saturdays and Sundays. Everybody else gets the weekend off, but you're working every Saturday. You're working every Sunday.
That's right.
That's just the mentality of being a player and a coach. It's different. But I just think you go in a situation like that, treat it like every other day, and maybe spend a little time together doing something fun that night.
Because of the nature of it being New Year's, I wonder if would the ACC schedule some during the day, and that way you can kind of have a team hang out at night or something. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Coach, the home away balance is always, to me, a pretty intriguing part of the schedule. And guess what? Carolina leaves the Tar Heels state just once in the final 10 games. That's incredible. But you know what that means? They got to get to work early on the road. We'll look at that to wrap the show in just a second. Right after I tell you about Mazda, who crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. And Mazda brings that same level of intentionality to how they craft every single model. You can feel that incredible Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Nappa leather upholstery with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV. You can drive with confidence through almost any season, because with Mazda, everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players on the Tar Heels, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every second count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Y'all, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get back $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. One of the great things about however you like to bet, player props, building a same game parlay, maybe even just jumping in live as the action unfolds. And it's all exciting. So whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, man, it's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little energy to all your Sundays. Looking at national championship odds for basketball, the Tar Heels are tied for 21st best odds at plus 4,000. Maybe you believe in this team coming together. Maybe seeing the schedule makes you think like, oh man, they can do this. Go ahead, get in on it with the Tar Heels. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. Once again, that's FanDuel.com. We're going to wrap the show talking about some of the home and road just things to be aware of and to catch as you look at the schedule. Something, in fact, that Coach Rob caught is the fact that I just said 9 of the final 10 games are in the state of North Carolina. Literally, I'm looking at my notes, and I have 8 of the final 10, so I got that wrong. Coach, thanks for calling me out, and I'm curious to see how many people caught that and called it out before I corrected it here, because that's always fun to see all the comments flood in. It means you guys are paying attention, and that's awesome. Thank you. So, Coach, that's where we want to start. 8 of the final 10 games are in the state of North Carolina. And remember, it's not a 20-game schedule. It's an 18-game schedule. So that final 10 is more than half of the schedule. And 6 of those final 10 are at home, with the other 2 being a game at State and at Duke. Coach, how helpful is that to not leave the state except twice? Of course, it's to go down to Miami in that final 10 games.
I think it's huge because you want to be playing your best basketball in February and hopefully March and April. But definitely the end of the conference schedule is when you should have everybody on the same page. You got your roles set, and everybody understands exactly what you're trying to do, even the new guys. So to have that kind of stretch late in the year, that's where you kind of get on a roll. And once you win a few, you feel like you're never going to lose. And if that can get started early into that run, it could be a great finish to the season.
Coach, here's the thing, though. With the joy of having all those games at home and in the state of North Carolina, that also means by almost default, that means you're going to have a lot of road tests early. Coach, 3 of the first 5 and 5 of the first 8 are on the road. How do you prepare for that?
Yeah, and I think it's tough too because that includes the Stanford trip, the SMU trip, the Cal trip. Those are trips obviously that are a lot farther, and you haven't been there before. A lot of the guys haven't played there before. To me, it's a big thing, and it's a mental thing for me, and I understand that. But I like to know where we're going to eat, what the restaurant looks like, what my locker room looks like, what's the crowd like, where am I going to walk through the student section, how all that stuff factors in, and all that's unknown, and I think that's hard. And that, to me, from a mental perspective, allows me to prepare a lot better once I know all those things. So I do think it's going to be more difficult. You just don't know all those things that you just get comfortable with. You don't have the extra stress of not knowing if you understand what's going to happen when you go to Syracuse and to Miami, but you just don't know those other places. So I do think that's going to be hard. And those things matter. Those things matter when it comes to being able to win and lose games.
I wonder, there is a certain coach in the Carolina circle and tree that knows Stanford pretty well. Do you think, like, if you're Hubert Davis, would you reach out and just say, hey, tell me what I need to know about coming to Stanford?
Yeah, I'd definitely reach out to Jared Hass or even Jack Frost. Either one of those guys can be very helpful when it comes to, hey, where's the best place to get a meal? Where's the best place to, and they have places where they stay. I'm sure all that stuff's done. But, even just being able to get acclimated to the area and just feel comfortable. Those guys have been out there long enough. They were out there long enough. You may find some Carolina fans that would be, willing to do something special for the team while they're out there. Just make them feel more comfortable. So I think that's definitely an option. Definitely something you think about. Sean Stout, former manager at Carolina, who went and coached at SMU and with Larry Brown when Larry was down there, and talked to Larry Brown about what can they do to just make yourself more acclimate yourself more to the area and just feel comfortable and knowing that you're going to be greeted well and again help you be able to prepare better for that game.
Yeah, man, you can't mess around. Those 3 of the first 5, 5 of the first 8. Gotta be ready to be road warriors. Thankfully, Carolina, while they don't have a ton of non-con road games, they do have that exhibition at BYU. It's technically at the Delta Center in Salt Lake, but that'll help. And then obviously the game at Rupp, man, that'll be a very difficult environment to go into, but really help Carolina prepare. The other thing, Coach, about those 3 furthest games, Cal, Stanford, and SMU are by far the 3 furthest destinations in the conference. I'm going to pull up those distances again for those watching on YouTube. The nice thing is those 3 games against those 3 teams are 3 of the first 5 ACC games. And so you are done with those 3 very long road trips by January 17th, Coach. And I think that's a helpful thing. But there's only 3 schools that are over 1,000 miles away from Chapel Hill, and it is SMU, Stanford, and Cal. And obviously, thankfully, the league is wisely doing where 2 teams typically travel together to play Stanford and Cal. So Carolina and Duke will both head out there. Carolina will play Stanford first, Duke, Cal, and then they flip-flop. And so that'll be a helpful thing there. But, Coach, that's not the only long road trip. You mentioned it earlier. They got to go to Miami, which is the 4th farthest school away, and Syracuse, the 7th furthest. So lot of long road trips. But, Coach, here's the other good news. The other 4 road trips are some of the Duke, obviously the closest to NC State, 2nd closest, Virginia, the 4th closest, and Georgia Tech, the 7th closest. So that helps balance it out a little bit.
Yeah, and they'll still fly to Georgia Tech. I'm sure they always have. And this is going to sound funny for a lot of people who are skeptics out there, but those long road trips, those ones earlier, are either before classes start or right as the semester begins.
Good point. Great.
And a lot of people say, well, they don't go to class. Well, they do, and it is part of what being a college athlete's all about. And it is a whole lot easier to make those long road trips either early in the semester or during Christmas break, and allows them to be, and it's just a stress reliever. Then you don't have to worry about classes, don't have to worry about schoolwork during those times. So I still believe they're going to class. I know they are, and I still believe that's a big part. And try to eliminate or try to limit how much travel they do actually during the school year.
Coach, two other things I want to hit, and then we'll see if there's anything else you're catching beyond that. As I said, Carolina will play all 10 Saturdays in conference play. That's great. You can plan your weeks around that every Saturday from January 3rd to March 7th, man, you're going to see the Tar Heels at some point. But, Coach, here's kind of the bummer. Only 4 of those 10 games are at home, meaning you've got 6 of your 10 Saturdays, which I guess it's nice that it's on the weekend rather than midweek to have that many. But that's kind of a bummer to not have that many home Saturdays, Coach.
It is, and you always want to be able to play home on Saturday, and it is tougher. We're in a similar situation. We have more away games on Saturdays than home, but again, for recruiting, for fans to be able to pack that house, a Saturday, nothing better than a Saturday afternoon game, and it does stink, but it's part of whatever the conference has set, and there's nothing you can really do about it. You just hope that it balances out next year.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So those 4 games, January 10th hosting Wake, February 7th hosting Duke, February 14th against Pitt. It's going to be a lovely time, Coach. I can guarantee you that. And February 28th hosting Virginia Tech. All right, Coach, last thing is, remember, folks, this last year, Carolina went on that stretch where they had a pretty manageable 6-game stretch leading up to the regular season finale hosting Duke. Carolina doesn't have necessarily that easy schedule leading up to it, but they do play leading the regular season finale is at Duke, but the 3 games before that are all home. That Louisville game on the back end of Big Monday, that Saturday hosting Virginia Tech, and then that next midweek hosting Clemson. How helpful is that to just kind of unpack your bags after that Syracuse trip? We're either at home or only going to Durham, Coach.
Yeah.
That's the furthest you got to go the rest of the regular season.
It is nice to think about that. Logistically, you don't have to think about all the stuff you have to do to be able to travel. It's still a tough stretch. Louisville's going to be really good. Clemson's going to be good. I think Virginia Tech's going to be better. So you need to get some momentum. Those 3 games is just huge to get some momentum going into that game at Duke. But at least you're not having to worry about getting on a flight somewhere.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Let's get on some flights and go somewhere for the ACC tournament and then the NCAA tournament. Let's go somewhere 3 straight weekends for that, Coach. That's what you're hoping.
I'm in, definitely.
All right. Any other observations from you as you look at this outside of what we've already talked about?
Yeah, I saw one of your shows talking about the 5 most important games of the year, and you put BYU in there. And my initial reaction was, you can't have an exhibition game, can't be that big of a deal. But I agree with you. I think that's a really important game. And, they're top 10, I guess, 6 preseason in some polls and 7 in others. It's just, that's a really big opportunity, I think, to make a statement that, hey, we are for real. And I do think BYU is going to be special. I do think it'd be harder on campus. That's one of the hardest places to play on campus. But being in Salt Lake City would be a little bit different. But I guarantee it's still going to be a loud crowd that's going to be very excited about seeing the Heels. And I do think that will give us a better idea, just like the Memphis game, give you just a little bit better idea of where this team is at the start of the season.
That's absolutely right. We'll have to have a crossover with Jake Hatch, the host of Locked On BYU ahead of that. Might also have to check in with David Locke, the founder of our great network, who is the radio voice of the Utah Jazz, whose building they'll be playing in for that game. Hopefully he can get some eyeballs on him and would love to hear his thoughts as well. Coach Rob, as always, brother, thank you, folks. If you haven't grabbed his book, Carolina Basketball School, go check that out right now. Great stuff. You guys, we'll be back tomorrow to get ready for the weekend, to get ready for hopefully Bill Belichick's 2nd win of his career against Richmond. It might get a little spidery in there. Hopefully nobody's got arachnophobia. That's a great movie you should watch this weekend. It's very appropriate for the times. I'm sorry for all my dad jokes today, guys. I really am. Sorry about that. If you've not subscribed to the show on video and audio, do that right now so you don't miss a second. If you've not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, lots of plugs for that today, or our Discord, we'd love to have you. Those links are both in the show notes. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Can't wait to be back with you tomorrow, but until then, peace.